With the first pick in the 2014 Major League Lacrosse Collegiate Draft, the Ohio Machines select Tom Schreiber, midfield, Princeton University.
Yeah, so first professional game down in Florida. One of the first things I remember, I think I'd only been on under 5 flights in my life. So flying to Florida, one, was something that I was stressed out about. It was the first time I think I was flying on my own, and that was part of it.
You had several players who are making their debuts for these teams tonight. Is making his debut for Ohio today, Schreiber.
So my first professional goal, I remember not having to work all that hard. I was coming off of 4 years at school where, I was kind of the primary guy, offensively, and now I was playing with all these, superstars, all these guys that I looked up to. So I was like really just trying to kind of make my way, and especially in that first game, not step on any toes. And, I remember just kind of floating in the middle of the field, and Kyle Harrison, a guy, who now I consider one of my closest friends, but at the time, was a guy I was like kind of hounding him to get his, arm pads after a game, when I was a little kid, when he was at Hopkins, and now, we're running midfield together. So he's, slicing and dicing up top, and next thing I know, I'm getting a pass from Kyle Harrison, one of my, kind of childhood heroes, and, remember just kind of turning it around. I'm sure my eyes were closed. I don't think it was like, the most well-placed shot I've ever had, but, kind of just caught it and slung it high, and, thankfully it beat the goalie, and, I was kind of on my way as a pro, but it was a special moment for me, and one that, was a long time coming. I was a long time MLL fan, huge Lax rat as a kid, so to get out there and, to kind of have that first goal assisted from Kyle, playing in Major League Lacrosse was really special.
Yeah, I got drafted #1 in 2012 and ended up breaking my foot my senior year at Cornell, second game of the season. And I had the opportunity to go back to Cornell and have the full year that I wanted to have and try and win that national championship that we hadn't won yet. So kind of putting off going to the pros for a year was just made sense for me. And at that point in my life and everything that Cornell gave to me, I felt like I needed to be there for another year and really finish the season, finish a full year as a Cornellian and as a lacrosse player there before moving on.
Play behind the cage and reverse it over to Rob Pannell. His first touch in the MLL, long-awaited debut after 5 seasons at Cornell. Got the medical red shirt.
I remember stringing the stick I used in the car on the way to the game, Warrior Evolution, and I used an old school classic titanium shaft. I think it was the only game that I used that stick.
Lizards look to answer Pannell. What a dodge and a shot! Score! Rob Pannell with his first career MLL goal.
I remember my first goal being an inside roll, and a move that I've done thousands of times, whether it's in my backyard or whether it's in a practice or a game. And I just remember driving up and doing the move and scoring and putting it on goal. And when that happens, I think you just take a deep breath and you settle in, you feel a little relieved and relaxed, and that's exactly what, kind of what happened in that scenario.
And he's just clearly comfortable, Brent. You'd think there'd be some nerves, but not at all.
I just felt comfortable, and after a few, performing a few moves and things that I've done my whole life that I've learned when I was 10 years old, and some of those moves working, I was like, okay, this could be, I can play at this level and I can make this work. And I think it was just confidence, and it was like confirmation right off the bat that I can do this. Which to have that confidence in myself has always been something that I've worked on, and is so important to me.
And the debut of the sensational rookie, the top overall pick, Myles Jones, is on the horizon. The Blaze, the Cannons.
In my first pro game, I can remember 2 really distinct memories of that game. One was the first time I stepped on the field, ran out on the field on the first midfield line. First pass comes my way, totally missed the ball, went out of bounds. So I can always remember my first ever possession.
There, perhaps a little early game jitters there, Myles Jones.
Definitely nervous, wanted to make my statement, make my mark. But later in the game, I actually was able to do that.
Jones using the big body.
Wow.
Welcome to the MLL, Myles Jones.
And that's what
I scored a goal in very traditional Myles Jones fashion. Put the shoulder down, create some separation, and did what I did best. That was a goal I've scored so many times, not only in my life, but leading up that year playing at Duke. Just going to what works, what I'm used to, just something comfortable that has led to success for me.
With the first pick, the Archers select Grant Ament from Penn State, the tackman.
Nervous. I think every guy would say their first pro game is certainly nervous.
And yesterday, yeah. Great look inside, Grant Ament. First goal as a pro.
You know, it was an amazing night. Obviously, weird COVID times. My family wasn't in the crowd, and that was weird. But really, once I got that first goal, Monkey was off the back. It was backdoor cut, feed from Will, and he was. I just remember how happy him and Marcus were for me, and hyping me up, and the feeling that I made it to professional lacrosse, because that was always the dream. That moment, calling my parents after the game and talking to them, and just hearing how happy they were for me, I think was definitely the moment that I remember the most after that one.
Yeah, I remember my first professional lacrosse game was at Endicott College. It was a pretty hot day. We were playing against the Florida Launch.
Trevor Baptiste with his first career MLL face-off, cannons and a launch.
Kind of thinking back to the play of my first goal. I won the face-off forward, was able to kind of run down, get some separation, and
Georgia swarm. Trevor Baptiste, there's number one!
Stepped in a couple steps in front of the two-point arc and kind of buried it low and away.
That's gotta feel good. First career MLL goal for Beast Baptiste.
Yeah, I think my feelings and kind of what was going through my head going into my first professional game was stuff with a lot of nerves, and I think that I was just trying to stay even keeled. I knew that going up to a higher level and the competition was going to be better, that maybe the plays weren't going to be similar than what I was used to in college, so I just kind of thought back to when I was a freshman in college, playing that first game, just working hard, battling, and just trying to play my best.
With the first overall pick in the 2024 PLL College Draft, the Denver Outlaws select Brennan O'Neill, attack, Duke University.
A lot going on and a lot of emotions, a lot of mixed emotions. Sadness that your college career is over, happiness you get to be a pro now, but then you have to be serious again and dial it in for the game. So it's just a lot of just a roller coaster of emotions.
O'Neill out of the box, scores! It's like a runaway train that's coming at you.
Being a professional, it hits you in different ways, and I think in that moment you're kind of like, wow, I'm actually here, and it's in your goals. You can see it in the future when you're in college at the time, or when you dream about it as a kid. When you look down at your jersey and then look up in the stands and you're still playing and you're playing the game you love, it kind of hits you, and maybe not fully in the moment because you're playing a game and you're trying to focus on the game, but especially after, you're like, wow, I just did that.